are in this beautiful place right now, checking out some fall leaves, hanging out with the dogs, which we may have to yell at during this video, so I'm sorry about that if that happens, because it probably will. But we are in a beautiful, calm place, and I wanted to talk about grief, because why not? So there's a couple of things that I really wanted to talk to Ellen about grief, and we tried to do one and the audio got all messed up, so we're gonna have to redo all of that. But the one that I think would be good to talk about today is what not to say to somebody who is grieving. Because I think that's something that people struggle with. And I mean, I've struggled with, I've said dumb things to people who are grieving.
Me too.
Or not known what to say. And we're like not taught what to say, right? Like we're not, you don't know what to say. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just can be really bad. And it can be really harmful sometimes too.
Well, and I think our society just really makes it so no one wants to be sad, and they kind of look, it's almost frowned upon to be grieving because they think you should just get over it, which is obviously not something that's possible.
No.
Because someone that you love very much just passed away. So that's a big deal.
So what do you think is, like, what are some things that you've heard that are not good to say when someone's grieving?
Gosh, people are terrible sometimes, and it's not their fault. They don't, they just don't know what to say. And I mean, I've been stuck in that situation before too, and I'm lucky that I've had some training on this a little bit. But
which I should say too, if you guys haven't, like, falling off this bench, can I scoot over a little? Sorry. I should mention too, if someone hasn't seen our other videos, Ellen is a hospice nurse, so she deals with death and grieving a lot. So I face this in my practice too, but she deals with it more like as it's happening and prepares people for it as well, where I see it most often like after the person has passed and they're grieving. So you see it like more real time. Yeah. Well, and I think the worst things are anytime you use like an at least statement. So, when most of the time I deal with the older population, and I go to a lot of funerals, and some of the things that my patients' family have said is, so-and-so just came up to me and said, oh, well, he died at 80. Well, at least you had, 50 years with him. And they're like, well, I'd like 50 more years, It's not comforting.
No.
Even though they're trying to be comforting and it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know what to say to somebody, so you're like, at least.
Yeah.
But that often makes that person feel worse.
It's just their awkwardness just coming out. And I think, when they say those at least statements and everything like that, I think they're just trying to comfort you in some way, but it's just not as effective.
No, it doesn't work.
Sad.
It's also not an empathetic statement, because I teach that too, like how to be empathetic. You never say at least, ever. Like if you're trying to make somebody feel better, you're trying to empathize with somebody, you can't say that, because that can also be minimizing or a little bit demeaning, or just kind of, I feel like sometimes it's demeaning. And sometimes when people say that to me, even not with grieving, they're like, oh, well, at least you didn't have this, and it's like saying something that's worse. It makes me just feel worse about it.
Yeah.
Like that's not helpful.
Yeah.
It can always be worse, but you telling me that is not helping me, because it's almost saying, don't feel what you're feeling because of this.
Yeah.
Somebody has it worse, or somebody, and it just makes you feel like yucky.
Yeah.
Sorry,
well, it's so true.
The dogs are.
Well, and it's one of those things.
Sorry.
It's one of those things where it's a true statement, but it's not helpful, right? So, I mean, I've heard really bad things where they've said, oh, your child passed away, I'm so sorry. They're like, but at least you've got 3 more. And I'm just like, well, yes, that's true. They do have 3 more children, but that's not helpful. So it's just kind of sad when, when these people are just not used to having any way to comfort you. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to help. It's really sad. So we really wanted to give this video because we want to help you on what to say, or, you know, also don't be mad if someone does say these things to you, because it really does come from a good place.
You can be mad. and
Yeah,
you
I
will be
guess
mad.
that's true. That's true.
But I think
It's true.
understanding it, we can almost laugh about it
Yeah.
and be like, man, people are idiots. And
Yeah.
that helps sometimes because it takes it away from like, this person like really hurt me and they meant to people are just dumb and they don't know how to handle a grieving person.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me of this person that I talked to recently, who has really complicated grief. But someone said to her once, in like the worst part of her grief, which I haven't told you, you're gonna love this. They said, grief is the devil's work. So if you're feeling grief, then
Oh, that's bad.
that's like the devil sitting with you. I know, I knew you would love
That's
that.
so bad.
And they gave her like a whole pamphlet on how grief was like the devil's
Oh
work.
gosh, that's so bad.
It's awful because that is one of those statements that's just so painful and just like jabbing, right?
Yeah. Well, and the worst
And not
thing that
true.
you can do to someone when they're grieving is to make them feel guilty about being sad. Because if anything, you should support that and encourage that, because someone that means a lot to them just, you know, left their life. And this doesn't ever have to, grief doesn't have to be just death. It can be a divorce. It can be, you know, someone even just moving away and, you know, see them for a long time. You know, you can go through these steps of
Come here.
grieving without
Sorry,
all of
the
that.
dogs are going crazy.
But anyway,
Sorry.
so-
And the thing that I also wanted to talk about with the grief is the devil's work thing is that what do you say, like grief is love with no place to go or something?
yeah,
That's like
yeah.
the opposite of that statement, and that's
Yeah.
I feel that so much, and I think that's such a good statement. Like grief is love that you can no longer give to that person, and it just piles up and it's painful and you can't let it out and you can't like connect. I mean,
Yeah.
and that to me is such a real statement, and it's so opposite of that.
Yeah.
Because grief is love.
It
You feel
is.
grief when you are grieving the person that you love, or this
Yeah.
change or this transition, and I think that's so real.
My favorite quote is, to live life without love is to grieve. To grieve without sorrow is to live life without love. Sorry, opposite. Just because you're going to be sad when that person leaves your life. That's something that's expected. It's normal.
Yeah.
And you
And if
should
it doesn't
be
happen,
sad.
then you
Yeah.
didn't care about them in that way. So it will happen, right?
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
going to happen, and it's awful and it's painful, and it is also a part of life. I mean, some people go through way more traumatic and awful things with grief and experience way more of it than I wish they had to.
Yeah.
But it also is a part of life as we get older and as things happen, that you are going to go through some grief
Yeah.
in losing people, but also in transitions and in change and in all of that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where your dog is.
Well, I'm gonna go find my dog this time.
So sorry that this is chaotic. I thought it would be nice as we're like in this little campsite and just kind of relaxing to shoot a video. But we also let the dogs off leash and they are going a little crazy in the space. So I apologize. But yeah, so if people make comments to you, if you're the person grieving or if you're the person trying to support someone grieving, if people make comments to you that are really bad, I think finding people who you can talk to about it, like people like us who get it and can be like, man, that is so bad, and I'm so sorry that you had to experience that, and that can really support you in that. I think that is so important, because otherwise, if you're only surrounded by those negative messages and those messages that are like kind of demeaning your pain, you have to find people who understand and get it and can support you. And I think that's also why I wanted to bring Ellen in, because that's sort of what we suggest too, is that you find people who get it, who you can be yourself with, who you can be sad with, who you don't have to put up a front or pretend like you're not okay, even if it's 20 years down the line, that you can still be like, I'm really hurting today, and they can just love you and support you, because you're going to, that's the awful thing, is you're going to get these messages that we're saying, don't say this.
Yes.
You're going to get them, and that sucks, and I wish that wasn't true,
Yeah.
but it is.
I know. It's so sad. Well, and I feel so bad for people when that happens, because you're already having such a hard time, and then someone just, you know, tries to be a support but can't. And then you feel alone because you don't feel like anyone understands. But truth of the matter is next time, I've told my patients this, next time someone says something like that, you can really just say, you know, that's true, but that's just not helpful. You know, you can be blunt like that, because sometimes that could be appreciated by someone that's trying to help you. Because if you don't say anything, they're going to continue to say this. And I think another important thing to remember is never bringing up something unless they have said it. So a lot of times people say, oh, well, they're in a better place now, and things like that. And some people just don't either believe that, or they just don't feel like that's helpful in any way.
They're not even there yet if they do believe that, or maybe they don't believe it, like you said. So that's like imposing your beliefs on them is definitely not helpful.
So you never want to say that unless that person has said it. So a lot of times when I'm dealing with complicated grief, or, you know, someone that, you know, has completely different beliefs or something, I'm just a listening ear. And then when they say something that's been helpful to them, then I know, okay, then I can expound upon that, or I can discuss that with them. But I usually, seriously, the best thing to say to someone is just be like, I am so sorry for your loss, and I'm here for you if you need anything, you know? Or just saying, hey, could I walk your dog today to take a little burden off your shoulders? Or, you know, any little extra support goes a long way. And, you know, you don't have to make this big scene. You don't want to take them out all day, because sometimes people just want to be alone. So if by babysitting their kids or taking their dog for a walk is probably the best way to support your friend that's grieving. And also, if someone asks you if you are grieving, I know it's kind of a hard position to be in, but saying things like, you know what would just really help more than anything is if you wouldn't mind taking my dog for a walk today, or could the kids go to a movie today with your kids, or, you know, something like that. Because sometimes just being alone with your thoughts and staying with that is the best way to grieve, and people feel like they're helping without being awkward and saying terrible things. So
And I think so much of what you said is important, because if we mirror back what they say, then you know that that's okay for them, and that's what they want, and that's what they believe. So I think that's really good, like listening.
Rue, hey, come here. Sorry, she's really close to the road. Rue, hey, come on. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So we're having some excitement today in this video.
Yes, we are.
But I think being able to Ellen's dog is not as cool as my dog. She's all over the place. I can say that now that Ellen's gone, because she would be mad that I said it. So yeah, listening to what they say and then repeating that back in, you know, a different way, or expounding upon it, you can definitely do that, and I think that's a great tip. And I really like being able to ask for what you need, because a lot of people want to help and they want to support you, but they don't know how to help. So like Ellen said, being able to offer things like, hey, what if I did this? Or would this be helpful? Like checking in and asking, like, hey, would this be helpful? Could I do this? Like, maybe I could try this. And guys, seriously?
Oh,
Could you calm down, please?
See, we could use someone to take our dogs for a walk. So that would be helpful.
But like, not advertising, like offering a service or offering help or offering some kind of thing, I think is really good. And then accepting that if someone offers it, or asking, like you said. We're so bad at asking for help and support, but people want to help you, and people actually will feel good about themselves for helping you if you let them. So let them offer some support. And I think the opposite of like doing something for you and taking like your dogs or your kids or, you know, that kind of thing is also just being a distraction. Be like, hey, like I want to go out for coffee, but I can't talk about this today. Can we just talk about something
Yes.
else? I think that's
Yeah.
also really helpful. Voice what you need and what you want. Like,
Yes.
hey, today I really do, I feel like I want to like think about this on my own and I want to process it, or like I'm thinking about this memory that happened, you know, last year and I want to talk about it, or like I don't want to go there. So can we just like do something fun and try to distract?
Yeah, and it's really hard to verbalize that when
Yeah.
you're in the midst of grief, because at that point you probably don't really know how to feel about a lot of things, and you don't know what is normal and what is okay. But I think the most important thing, I'm kind of going off topic here, sorry, but I think one of the most important things is just realizing that you feel bad today, and that's okay. Or you're like, why do I feel so calm today? That's okay too. You know, I think not stressing so much on how you're supposed to feel or how you're supposed to react. I think just realizing how you feel in that moment and just sit in it and go for it. And I think it's important to verbalize that to those that support you and that aren't gonna judge you for weird feelings, you know? So I think that's a huge part of what Diana's saying, is being able to verbalize what you're feeling to that person that wants to help but doesn't know how.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And we covered a lot of topics in a lot of like
Yeah.
different ways.
I feel like every time we do a video together, our dogs are going crazy.
I know.
So
Sorry. And now they're just sitting and relaxing,
I
so they're calm
know.
and good.
Gosh.
But yeah, I think being supportive and saying something is really good if you're talking to someone who's grieving, but just be conscious of what you're saying. Try not to use at least. If you even just remember, don't say at least and don't say anything that they haven't said themselves.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And try to offer support, but just don't try to push yourself on them. I think that's really important. And then if you are the person grieving, it's going to take a lot more time and maybe never feel like it was before because you have that loss.
Yeah.
But try to voice what you need and find people who get it and can support you. I think those are kind of the highlights, right?
No, I agree with that. I think that's the best way to remember things, to help you to support someone, or if you are grieving, tools that you can do to help yourself and help those around you.
And advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And if someone's being annoying or not being helpful, you don't have to be around them. Or you can say something, and you can find people that get it, or call people like us and be like, this woman just said this to me, and we can be like, what?
I know. We'll freak out with you, because that's happened a lot to both of us.
It has happened a lot. And it helps us to learn too, because this is something that I feel like I'm not naturally good at, and I don't know that a lot of people are.
Yeah.
So I mean, some people are good at it as far as supporting people, but it's awkward and it's uncomfortable, and you want to help that person so bad, but you don't know how, and you don't want to say anything wrong, you don't want to say too much, and you don't want to say too little. It's a really uncomfortable position to be in. We can help learn together. And that was, I mean, a lot of the motivation for this too, because we have gotten better at this over the years and I still have a long ways to go, I feel like, in getting better at it.
I do too.
But we can now help people and at least empathize with people who get said things to that are just crazy.
Well, and I think it's always, I mean, it's not necessarily a good thing, but I mean, we've had some family members die recently, and we've experienced this. And so I think when you've experienced a death of a loved one yourself, it's a lot easier to support those that have. So even, you know, if you know of someone, this is terrible because it's not the best circumstance, but you guys could support each other because you're both going through things, and it's okay.
And you know that they understand and aren't going to judge you, and know how crazy and hectic it can be. And also know how, like, and I would like to shoot another video on like just like getting through grief and supporting people going through that. But if you have people who just know how sometimes you wake up and you just feel awful and it's just a bad day, or you're like extra forgetful, like people know that who have been through it. They know that happens. So I think that's really important. The dogs are running away again, I think.
I think they're coming back. Anyway.
Oh, geez. But yeah, so we'll keep talking about this, but I would love to hear like bad statements that someone has made to you if you're grieving, because I think that would be like, we can laugh at it. We can be like, this is
Funny.
awful and it sucks, but like, let's laugh and try to just be like, oh man.
Gosh, this person needs some help.
And that could be
You
healing,
don't know.
right? Just be like, oh man. So
Oh my
if someone
gosh.
has made awful comments to you, let's just like laugh about it. So if you want to share those and that's comfortable to share, share that. Or if you've made a comment that you look back and you're like, man, I shouldn't have said that, share that, because I think that that could be kind of a healing way to just laugh and talk about how bad people are sometimes.
It would be interesting.
So share that if you want to, and if you have any questions or want support or anything, reach out to us as always.
That
So,
would be great. And actually, you do have a great little thing that you posted on your YouTube, not your YouTube, your Instagram, that you could look at too on how to support grief.
Yeah.
So,
The little,
Yeah.
that I really like that. And that would be good for us to talk more about too if we do another video on this, like how to support someone going through grief and how to like support yourself too. But yeah, definitely.
thanks you guys for letting me join in today.
Thank you for joining us, and I'm sorry about the dogs and the chaos, but this is what life is like.
Crazy.
They're crazy. So, all right. Thank you guys. Bye.